where we are and where we can go. There's a couple parts of where we are, and then I think some choices for where we can go, and a few next steps that I have to just talk about. This comes out of really some of the work I've been doing for the Doctor of Ministry program, which when the bishop approached me about it, I thought, really, why, like I need to do another thing. But I think this is some of what I've found here is, I think, part of why at least the first step in that process has been pretty important. So the first piece is where we are, part 1, current strengths. And this is some things I'll share. This is what we're doing as a parish that I think is really good. First, we have hardworking, dedicated people. I've never been in a church or probably any place else with people that are willing to chip in and do as much work as people here do regularly. And so that's a strength, and you'd see some pictures here. We know how to be a church, and that's in a lot of ways. We know how to do Sunday morning worship in different ways. We know how to do things like there's some people, the diocesan picnic, a Waldemir. I have a friend who's a church planter. She said, have no idea what it's like not to have an altar guild that knows what an altar guild's supposed to do. And we know how to do that. And so that's good. We have really good quality worship services. I've had pastors who come for some of our services that aren't Sunday morning who really want to be here because of the way we worship. And I think that's why a lot of people have found us and come here. We welcome visitors. People show up, they feel welcome. There are people who have come in the past couple of weeks who have visited and said we've never felt welcome in a church the way we feel welcomed here. It's not even our church. We haven't felt that welcome in our church, and we feel welcome here. Not afraid of change. So really, I wanted to get these two pictures in. So
wonderful photograph.
And there is change, and we may not always like it. But one of the things I've found in this parish is that nobody is afraid of it. We may wonder what's going to happen. We may decide that we don't want to do that. We may decide we have to do it, but we'd rather not. But nobody's really afraid of something being a little bit different. We've done a whole lot of things in the past 150 years here, and that's okay. And that's actually a real strength that, again, is not the same as everywhere, but it's a strength this parish has. The facilities are in good shape. Again, I have not been in a church, especially a church of the distinguished age and lineage of this one, where everything is in as good a shape as it is. There's some maintenance things we have to deal with. The capital campaign is getting things fixed that need to be fixed. At that point, there will be maintenance. There will always be maintenance. Some of you have been around long enough to know that, and we're very grateful for your work. But there really isn't deferred maintenance here. And that is a huge gift. Any number of other places don't have that gift. And so that's really something special, and we've enjoyed this new facility tonight. We know who we are, and we have clarity about that. The purpose statement, worship God, care for people, grow as Christians. We say and we sing, and it really does fit who we are and who we've been throughout our history. The guiding principles, which are a little blurry on here because it's a slide of a picture of a whatever, but asking for God's guidance and power, doing what we do well for the glory of God, enjoying our work and having fun doing it. Those are the marks of this parish, and we know what they are, and that's good. We have a number of positive community things. We have a positive community reputation. People out there know us. They want to work with us. We're building relationships. There's always been relationships with the community from here. They ebb and flow at different times. But people call us. They want to be in relationship with us. They see us being helpful. They want to come down. They come down for the lunch, even just for a one-time kind of thing, and they appreciate what's happening there. They know what's happening at ECS. They know just where we are in the community. And so there's a bunch of partnerships and things that are happening. And when you talk to people out there about what's happening in here, they get excited and happy. They want to be part of what we're doing. They may not want to be tithing, but they want to be part of what we're doing. We have hundreds of people in this facility every week. And that's amazing. And it's another way of outreach. But we have the community lunch, which is averaging, what at this, 150, 170 something. ECS, which is another probably 100 people every 2 weeks. Cana's Corner Coffee House is up 30 to 50 people every 2 weeks. ECW events can have 100, 150 people. Taizé Healing Services, there's, I think at this point, 3 AA meetings here. Music lessons. The Behavioral Health Commission has a meeting, actually 2 different meetings regularly now in the building. There's all kinds of other parties that happen and different things. So the facilities are getting used and people are relating to us in that way as well. Then, I also just want to touch on, this is a more numerical, I guess, way to talk about some of the strengths. But in 2013, we took a natural church development survey. Some of you are involved with that or remember that. We're probably getting about time to take another one. And what it showed us is basically a picture of a church that's pretty healthy. I don't know if you can see it. Our lowest factor is 51, that's passionate spirituality. Our highest factor is 74, which is gift-based ministry. This is a scientific scaled score. 50% is the average of all the churches that they've worked with, which is at this point probably 10,000 plus throughout the world. And so we're doing okay. And actually, I would think if we had these kind of numbers in a suburb of Arizona where there were people moving in and leaps and bounds, we couldn't keep people out of our church. I mean, we'd be trying to figure out, reserving pews and things like happened here in the old days when there were people moving into Sharon by leaps and bounds. And these are kind of the 5 highest breakouts of the scores. I can tell more about all this stuff if you want. We'll look at some other things later, but things like support for ministry, significance for ministry, equipping for ministry, organizational structures and systems, compelling vision. The way the scaling works, 70% of churches are between 30 and 70 on any given score. So to have these scores above 75 or above 70 even, that's like in the top 10% of churches in those areas. When people show up here, they're able to use their gifts. They get excited. Some of the other very high scores we have are things like atmosphere of encouragement and joy and welcoming. So that when people show up here, they're happy. It's a good place. We have a supportive bishop and diocese. Some of you may not have much direct contact with the bishop and diocese, and that's probably a fine thing, But Bishop Sean is from this area. He actually sees St. John's as integral to the future of the diocese and its work. And he's willing to help us in whatever way he can for us to do what we need to do. And again, that's not something that exists in every church in Christendom, but we have that. We also have a financial endowment. At the end of 2014, that endowment was $2,377,264. That's not small change. That's real money. Out of that endowment, taking just what's 5% using a total returns policy, 5% of that which we feel we can take legitimately without eating into principal over time. For our operating budget this year, we're estimating a little over $106,000 that can go into our operating budget. So it's also a great gift, a great help. This shows just the growth of the market value of the endowment over time. This is 1993. It's just under $1 million. And then you get up to almost $2.5 million where we are, $2.3 million in 2014. You see in 2003 to 2007, There was some fluidity in the market. Some of you may remember those times. We also got a couple of very big gifts. Al Wilson was one of them, who left a very, very generous bequest that I think, I don't have the exact numbers, but that's part of what those upward spikes are. And it really set us in a good course. You can see even from 2011 till now, it's probably gone up $300,000 to $400,000. And some of that is market growth, and some of that is actually also new contributions. So you have a life insurance policy you don't know what to do with, leave it to the church. We'd appreciate it. We can make this line go even higher. This is also our operating income by source. And I want to thank this, and there's some other things that Madge Tambra actually helped me go through the old records and put together on spreadsheets. But this shows our operating income. The bottom line is pledge and plate contributions. And you can see this number starts in '93, just above 150,000. And by 2014, it's between 200 and 250,000. So it's gone up quite a bit. I got here in 2009, and you can see that over the past 5 years or so I've been here, that's the number of just gifts from people. So that's been moving up. At the same time, you could see, sort of paralleling that other slide, as the endowment's gone up, so also is our investment income. So we've never taken 106,000, or which we may actually not need, hopefully, all of it, but we've never had that much budgeted before. And then the top is just diocesan assistance, and that's been for our youth and family minister, and that grant will end the end of this year. Okay, so that's what I've experienced since I've been here. That's what I've seen. And I think that's probably what a lot of people have seen and experienced. A healthy parish, a good parish, a lot of strengths, and also with financial numbers that have actually seemed more robust and healthy than they used to be. I mean, it seems to be on the right trend. And so, as I started to do the research on this, and to look at some of the things I'm going to share with you in this next part, I was actually quite shocked. And as I got to thinking about it, some of it made more sense, but it seems like there's another story being told at the same time that I want to look at now. So this is the median average Sunday attendance in the Episcopal Church, of all Episcopal churches. Average Sunday attendance is usually how we look at church size, because in traditional churches like ours, generally people come to church Sunday morning, and the more they're at church Sunday morning, it also is the best indicator of how involved they are in other things that go on during the week. The median, which means the middle, if you line up all the churches, the one with the middle attendance in the Episcopal Church in 2001, it had 80 people going to it. Just fairly small, actually, but a lot of small churches in the Episcopal Church. Most Episcopalians go to big churches. If you looked at the number of people, they're mostly in larger churches, but there are a lot more smaller churches. Between 2001 and 2013, that median average Sunday attendance number went from 80 to 61. So that's 25% loss. The church as a whole, I want to look at this number, lost 18%, average Sunday attendance lost 24% of its average Sunday attendance over the past 10 years. Okay, that's church-wide. This is the attendance for St. John's, starting in 1984 at this side, going to last year, 2015, over here. Let's see, 2014, over here. See, in the mid-80s, there's a little bit of a drop, but this line is 200. This line is 150. This line is 100. So to just think about kind of eras or whatnot, this is kind of the end of Richard McCandless's time here, when there's actually a lot of mills closing, a lot of other things. This is Father Considine's, and then Father Doug's going through a rather large chunk. He was rector for 16 years. He has a lot of years. And then this is actually when I came here. And you can see we were over 250 people on a Sunday in 1994. And that steadily declined. When I got here, the first year I was here, we were about, I think, 155, but on that slope down. And then we actually rebounded a little bit. And there are a number of new people that came, different things happening. And personally, I thought, okay, well, that's good. We figured this all out, right? And in some ways, we've done some really good things. There are new faces here that weren't here in 2009. But over the past 2 years, that line's gone down again, as you can see. And it's continuing to go down this year. What we have so far, the numbers are so far this year about where they were at the end last year. And when you go over the summer, those numbers always go down. So we're still looking at the decrease in attendance. So this is the cohort study I did. This is the data study. I took 201 households with a snapshot in 2014. These 201 households were people that we have on the church list, church rolls if you will, households, not individuals. And they did one of three things. They either gave us money in 2014, taking out like people's kids that live in California or visitors or whatever, but people are really here. Either gave us money, or were regular enough in church that we actually know who they are, or are active in a ministry. And there are a couple people that are active in a ministry but don't do either one of the others. There are some people who come to church, but I don't know they do anything else. And there are actually a lot of people, it turns out, that send us money, but who never come, except maybe on a holiday or something else. When we looked at worship attendance, and this is again something that Madge and I looked at, we went through the list and started to think about, okay, where are people? And we broadly put people into groups of weekly, meaning every week or every other week, at least 3 times a month. Monthly, 2 times, 1 time a month, a little less than that, or else infrequent, which could be almost anything else. Out of that 201 households, 34% come weekly, 20% about monthly, 46 are less frequent than that. But that means 46% of people are doing something besides showing up for church. The service attended, 52% tend to go to 10 o'clock, 28% of those go to 8 o'clock, 1% we found go back and forth, and 19% of the families, so that's like 38 families, neither Madge nor I saw them in church enough to know which service they actually went to. Okay, so for whatever that's worth. 40% had someone in the household that was active in a ministry. 60% didn't. So that meant at least one person volunteered at ECS, did things with the Women's Guild, was a reader or a Eucharistic minister in the choir, or something that we could identify them with. Then I started looking at giving. And this is where I kind of started to get scared a little bit. These are the giving ranges for the church. We have 2 households that give over $10,000. One in the $7,500 to $99,000 range, 7 in the $5,000 to $7,500, 14 to $2,500 to $5,000, 42 $1,000 to $2,500, 33 $500 to $1,000, 67 households $1 to $500, 36 households $0. When looking at this, the over 10,000 is one $12,000 pledge and one $10,600 pledge. The next category has one pledge that's about, I think the gift was $8,000 last year. And the 7 in the next level are all between $5,000 and $6,000. There are no gifts above $6,000 in that category. Which I only say to say that these are all at the bottom range of these numbers. You know, this is a democratic giving, which is actually a good thing in many ways. But it means we have a lot of people giving at the lower ranges. Most Episcopal churches, especially in this area, have, for most of their history, relied on a couple very wealthy people to make sure the church could stay afloat. Nobody today, but if you talk to people who did this 20 years ago or longer, the way things were usually done was you got to December and you saw what the budget needs were, and then the rector picked up the phone for the 1 or 2 people that could do it and said, we need $10,000 this year to make it work. We need $17,583. They wrote the check, everybody had lunch, went home happy, and the church was continued for the next year. You know, that's not something we have the luxury of doing. If you're one of those people that I could come and call you and say, you know, we're short this year, can you please give us $20,000? Please let me know, because I don't know anybody like that right now. But I just say that so that, and as we start to go forward, you'll see, this is relying on a whole lot of people, many of whom have had long-term relationships with the church to keep giving smaller amounts of money to make it work. This is age data for the Episcopal Church in the United States. The blue numbers are the United States, and the red numbers are the Episcopal Church. And you can see that they don't go in quite the same direction. Okay? These are individuals, not households. This is a little different than what the numbers I have. You can see 26% of the United States are children and youth under 20, only 16% of the Episcopal Church. At the same time, 40 to 64-year-olds, which I wonder the age of the person who wrote this, it says that's middle age. But anyway, 40 to 64-year-olds are 20% of the population in the United States and 24% in the church. And then over 65, 14% in the United States, 31% in the Episcopal Church. Our numbers are even more skewed. So over 75, households 75 and over, 34%. 65 to 74 years old are 28%. 50 to 64, 25%. 35 to 49 are 9%. 18 to 34 are 4%. And we had 201 households, so roughly you can double them. So that's 8 households, 18 to 34. Obviously there's some kids and other things. We did households. So those numbers, I'm going to go to the next slide in a minute. When I got the next slide's data, that's when I was worried and depressed for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So what you're going to see is that the giving basically follows this pattern. I'm going to say, when we first looked at this with my committee that's helping me with the congregational study, the first thing that was said was, well, do we really need to break out over 75? I mean, how much of a difference could that make? But we decided to, and I think it's pretty important. So go ahead, Julia. This is the total giving by age in 2014. $78,500 was given by households 75 years of age and over. Another $75,900, age 65 to 74. That's 70% of the giving of the parish coming from people over 65. That's almost 80,000 from people over 75. You know, that doesn't look good when you project it out, right? And this, to me, looked a whole lot different than those numbers I showed you before, where our budget kept going up and giving seemed more, is doing better. We had more giving than we'd ever had before. So this is one of the key pieces of data that I want to share with you. Because if you look at age 64 and younger, now obviously you hope everybody gets better jobs and better, whatever, but 65,000, something like that, out of giving that's about 210,000 total. So that's one of the things that I think is something we really need to look at and think about for what our future holds. Then I also looked at a little bit of breakout for new members. What I took as new members, households, were people that have come since 2010. Between 2004 and 2010, the only people that I know of that came to the church and stayed are Donna Guire and Bob King. So now it might just be Donna Guire. There were people that came before that, up to that point, and then for a variety of reasons, it's another discussion, that kind of stopped. And it wasn't until 2010 that we started to get more batches of new people that stayed. I think some people had come and gone. In 2014, 21 families, or 10% of our households, had come between 2010 and 2014, so 10%. In terms of giving, actually the people who are new were doing a little bit better than average. They gave 34,000, which was like 17%. So that's good. That's still sort of where they are, and there's not, enough of them yet. Go ahead. New households tended to be more active in ministry. Obviously, if they came and stayed, they're probably doing something. Here's the age range. This is another thing that shocked me. When new members come to church, they're always supposed to be like 29 with kids, right? But that's not necessarily who came as new members. We had 2 households come as new members that are over 75. We have a quarter of them, so that would be, I think, 5 households, 65, 74%. So a third of the new members we brought in are actually over 65. That's not bad. I'm glad you're here, especially if you're one of those people in those categories. But you can see, the rest sort of fall out. Part of what that's saying to me is that we're bringing in people who are like us. I'll talk a little bit about why we're reaching those people more easily in a little bit. But just bringing in new people that we're able to bring in, or the way we're doing it, may not actually be the answer to any of the things that we're facing coming up. This is another piece that I just want to finish this section with, kind of the depressing piece of the program. This is from the Natural Church Development Survey. As you break out some of the categories, these are our 5 lowest scores. The lowest one is actually passion for devotions, which means when you leave Sunday morning, you're saying your prayers and reading the Bible. And although as a whole we score really well, here we score again in like the bottom, 15% of churches. The next one is deepening relationships. When this is taken 2013, in that kind of time frame, we're not doing a very good job of actually deepening the relationships of people that are here or people coming in. The other ones are things like the relevance of groups that we have. So people like them, and actually we didn't do badly on small groups overall in terms of scores, and small groups can be anything from a Bible study to an altar guild to the people who cook for the lunches, who are really a small group. It's not like a cell group in a evangelical church, but anytime people are getting together, the choir is a small group. But what the score says is when it's here, it's great, but doesn't necessarily connect to the rest of life when we go out there. And we love to sing in the choir, but we're not actually going to sing those songs in the shower when we go home, or whatever, or call the people that are in the choir with us. The next one is visitor-friendly church, where we're a little bit below average. And then we're right at 50 on integrating newcomers, the life of the church. So on some level, this isn't bad. These are the ones that are below average. I mean, that's not that many. But some of them are pretty low, and it's getting to it paints a picture along with what we're good at that says, when people are here, we love it, but it doesn't necessarily connect to the rest of our lives the way that maybe it needs to. Okay. Where we are, part 3. Those two pieces talk about the church specifically. I want to step back and talk about some things that are happening around us, because sorry.
I'm sorry, I should change the battery again.
Okay.
That's a good problem to have.